Welcome to What's in a Word, this time on plants and gardens. We've come to just near Harrogate to the Harlowcar Botanical Gardens, home to the Northern Horticultural Society. Let's start on that one. Horticultural, hortus, garden, cultural to cultivate. Cultivate your garden, horticulture, agriculture, agri's field, exactly the same. And what do you get in your garden? You get lovely little plants and lovely little flowers if you're lucky. And the first flower of the year is likely to be the snowdrop. Adam and Eve were cast from the Garden of Eden, and the garden was very upset about it. In fact, it started to go cold, and it started to rain, and the rain turned into snow, and the snow was so upset about Adam and Eve leaving that it turned itself into little flowers, snowdrops. The daffodil first came here from Sicily as the aphrodil, and there's a lovely legend with this one, a Greek goddess being abducted and taken to the underworld by Hades. And Hades' chariot was so hot that the white daffodils that she had on a crown on her head turned golden. They fell from her head and lined the stream that they were passing all the way to the underworld, which is why daffodils are associated with death to this very day. Buttercups. I'll pick one and do the old butter test. Put it under your chin and see if you get a yellow mark on your chin. Well, actually, that's pretty straightforward. It's because if you do like butter or fatty things, then you're likely to have a bit of an oily skin, and it will reflect off the bottom of your chin. And if you don't, it won't. Daisies. There's daisies all over here. It says if you can tread on 9 daisies, then spring is here, and I certainly can. It's a good job, really, because we're well into summer. It comes from daise eye. You see, a daisy will open when the sun comes out and close when the sun goes down. Daise eye. Daisy. Dandelion. That's an interesting one. Let me just show you that. Literal translation for you. Lion's teeth. Denture, lion, dandelion. Although the French actually call it wet the bed. Well, they don't. They call it something similar, which is a bit ruder, and I can't say that, because it is a diuretic. It actually helps you go more often. We used to put this in our salads. You know, the Russians grow fields of this, and they take the juice out of it, and they turn it into rubber, a latex form, and they make car tyres out of dandelions. Are you the gardener here, then? Only you've got that the wrong way up. That's a Dutch hoe. There's not a lot of use for that round here. A Dutch hoe is where you push it that way. A normal hoe, you pull the weeds towards you. Carry on. Now another old plant for you, Narcissus. Narcissus, it's Greek mythology again. He was in love with a water nymph. Oh look, how beautiful. Actually, he was in love with his own reflection in the water. And one day this big head decided that he'd pick the water nymph out of the water, reached forward and fell in and drowned. The Greek gods turned him into white tall flowers called Narcissus. Now, we're going to do a bit of marching and an old marching song. Bluebells are bluebells, bluebells are blue, bluebells are bluebells 'cause they're bells of blue. Hey? Bridge over the River Kwai, fantastic. It's actually the old national flower, the bluebell, and perhaps one of the reasons for that is because they used to boil it down and then make a really strong glue out of it. And they used that glue to put the feathers onto the stems of arrows. Fletchers would use it. Bluebells. That paper's upside down. From the arum plant, the arum lily is incredibly poisonous. In fact, this is incredibly poisonous. But they used to boil this down as well, and they'd make a starch out of it. Washerwomen would make starch, which would stiffen the collars. And because they were working with this stuff all the time, their hands were red raw. Now, shall we go gathering nuts in May? It's a silly expression, that, isn't it? Gathering nuts in May, because there are no nuts in May. That's because it should have been gathering knots in May. Knots of flowers, like posies that you'd throw out at a wedding. And May itself is the flower of the hawthorn tree. White, come out in May every single time, and it was always bad luck to take it into your house. Why? Well, they've only just realised why. Because it gives off exactly the same odour as a human body once you've died. So you'd be bringing death into your house. Do you think the echo was a bit over the top? We're back to Adam and Eve again, and the fruit from the tree of knowledge, the apple. Eve ate one and enjoyed it. She even picked another one and gave it to Adam, and he liked it, but it did stick in his throat a bit. Hence, Adam's apple. Born under a gooseberry bush. These are gooseberries here. You see them? Lovely. That was if you were trying for a baby and you weren't being very successful, you would take the leaves from a gooseberry bush and make it into a tea. Drink the tea, and it would supposedly make you more fertile. And if you then conceived, the baby would be born under a gooseberry bush. Terrifically simple. Let's go into the vegetable patch. Now here, you really have to know your onions. And that comes from bulbs. All bulbs in a garden used to be referred to as onions. It's the old word for bulbs. So if you knew all of the bulbs in a garden, you really knew your onions. These are our salad days, our green days, our young, inexperienced days, carefree salad days. And the lettuce, did you know that it used to be considered an aphrodisiac? Now you'd have to be a bit quick because the stalk of a lettuce contains a chemical that'll send you to sleep. And it'll make you impotent. Over there, there's a spruce tree. The old word for Prussia was spruce, and their army was immaculately dressed. The spruce tree itself is always immaculate. Hence, spruce yourself up a bit. Which reminds me, you're a bit too smart for a gardener, aren't you? You don't know anything about it. I mean, do you know why that's called a spade? I didn't think you did. Nor do I. But I do know why a fork's called a fork. It comes from the old word force. Fork from force. You're actually that bloke that wrote in asking for my job, aren't you? Aren't you? Well, I'm a fair person, so I'm going to let you have a go. Not now, later. You know, this programme's got all sorts of folklore in it about plants, because here's another one. How does the god of thunder, Thor, get to Earth? Well, he strikes lightning onto an oak tree, which is him on Earth. It's dedicated to Thor, and it... Model gardener in a model village, eh? Anyway, once it's hit the oak, it becomes a blasted oak. And people used to take branches off the blasted oak and put them in the houses. And if they had tiny houses, they'd take acorns and put them along the windowsills. Why? Well, it's simple. Lightning never strikes in the same place twice. Here's another nice one. Lavender comes from the Latin lavere, to wash, because they put the lavender in water, scented it for washing, and they also sprinkled it on the sheets of their beds because they didn't wash them that often, and it sort of freshened things up a little bit. The rosemary got beautiful blue flowers. Why? Well, if you listen to the church, it's because the Virgin Mary washed her cloak and put it over a rosemary bush to dry. The dye from the cloak made the flowers on the rosemary bush blue, and they've stayed that way ever since. Up to Stirling in Scotland and Stirling Castle, the Danes are trying to take it by stealth, and they're attacking at night. Their commander says, "I've got an idea. Take your boots off, lads, and they'll not hear you coming." So they do. and they sneak up towards the Scots and they tread on thistles and go, ah, and give the game away. Ever since then, the thistle has been the national emblem for Scotland. There's a nice little rhyme about thistles. Cut them in May, they'll grow the next day. Cut them in June, you've cut them too soon. Cut them in July, they're sure to die. And talking of dying, 1,000 deaths, it's your big opportunity to finish the programme. I want you to go up where those Doric columns are in this woods, which isn't really a woods. You see, we've got it the wrong way around. Forest actually means spread out, and woods actually means compact, but we do it the other way. Never mind all that. Just go up there, wait for me to give you the nod, then come back here and finish. You don't need your knife and fork. Just bye now. Which gives me just about enough time to tell you that more details are available on the website. Details on the bottom of the screen. If you want to get in touch, please do. And also to tell you a nice little story about a royal family that ruled this country for 330 years. First of all, they used to use brooms to sweep out houses, and the brooms were made from a certain bush. The Earl of Anjou went on a pilgrimage, and he put a bit of one of those bushes on his jacket to show that he was a humble fellow. His son became Henry II, and the family was named after the bush. The bush was called Plantagenista, and the family became known as the Plantagenets. All right, mate. See ya.
Tim's back at 12:30 today with more revelations of what's in a word, followed by the 15-1 grand final. That's earlier at 12:50. Coming next, Channel 4 News at noon. And you'll get more info. Grand final.